What's up, y'all? You have tuned in to the Selfish Chronicles, and this is not to be confused with selfish because we don't do selfish over here. However, I'm real heavy on the self-care. I encourage you to tap in. Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Selfish Chronicles. Thank you for who's ever tuning in. I truly appreciate you taking the time to click on this video because time is valuable. So, if you've been listening to me, you know I like to dive right in and I don't like to waste no time. So, today's topic, we will be talking about overcoming self sabotage. So, most of the time, self sabotage is a subconscious mental influence. The question is, how does one's mind create a destructive thought process? Getting to the root of this answer is going to require you to do some digging into yourself. So, if you are a victim of self sabotage or not even aware that you are self sabotaging yourself, this means that you lack self awareness. Okay. And self reflection is going to teach you how to be self aware. Deflection is heavy out here in these streets. People love to point the finger and refuse to take accountability unless it has something to do with the positive outcome. Then they want all the credit. Then you have people that are always being a victim and always blaming themselves. These two things are a manipulative mindset. And I don't think a lot of people understand that you can manipulate yourself. Either way it go, it's not a healthy thought process. It's not a healthy mental state. And if you want to grow, you have to become teachable and a willingness to learn new behaviors. If you haven't allowed yourself the opportunity to heal, then you are giving yourself a disservice. Mental healing is at the top of the list that gets ignored by people, many people. A lot of people like to substitute things to get rid of the pain, to get rid of the trauma, anything that will throw off your attention to whatever caused the pain. Some people will indulge in the pain, which causes them to become numb. A few things that get us stuck in this negative mindset is fear, unforgiveness, and acceptance. Fear of the unknown, not knowing what to expect. Unforgiveness, not forgiving yourself, not forgiving others for mistakes you have caused upon yourself or mistakes or anything that people has done to you. Acceptance, settling for what is and giving up because of failures. When you go so long in this mental state, you begin to become comfortable. And so this is how you maneuver in life. And so this foundation of where your mental state is going to influence your choices and your decisions that you make throughout your lifespan. And so this is walking in self sabotage. Now, that was a lot to process, right? And the point of this is to get down to the root of the problem so that you can obtain a solution. When you begin to dig down deep, right, you begin to pull up things that are not so pretty. And we're talking about ourselves and the things that are causing us to be stuck and not move forward in life. It's not healthy to substitute the trauma and pain or indulge in the pain where it becomes numb. That's not healthy. That's not going to get you anywhere. It's just piling up and piling up and piling up. And there's no freedom in that. There is no healing in that. You know, a lot of people have been molested, abused, and all this stuff that a person goes through in your childhood. And you know when you run into different people and have different relationships, there is traumas that are formed. And instead of us taking the time to go through the healing, we turn to relationships, we turn to crime, we turn to drugs and alcohol, and we run to all these different things that we think are going to fill the void. But when it's all said and done, it never fills a void. It only leads down a path of destruction. And so, getting to the root and really taking the time and looking into the mirror, getting yourself to a place where you can just focus on yourself, have a tunnel vision on your mental health. That is so important. And people need to understand that if you don't go through that, you are not going to grow. You are not going to heal. And if you are a person who, you know what, you want to be comfortable and you want to be stuck and you accept and you want to settle, my heart goes out to you because it's not healthy. And we were all born with a purpose. And we have to figure out what that is. We weren't just born to just exist. No matter how you came into this world, if God allowed it, He allowed it for a reason. And so, whatever that purpose is, whatever it looks like, is more than being tormented on earth. We go through things, we go through tests, we go through trials, and we go through tribulations and things like that. Absolutely. But some things are self inflicted because of our choices. So let's talk about the fear, unforgiveness, and acceptance. The fear is, if I come out of this abusive relationship, what is that going to look like? You ever been in a toxic relationship and you just couldn't see the other side of it? And you felt like this is it for me. So I have to do what I have to do to make this work. And if that's accepting the abuse, accepting all the toxicness that comes with it, because in my mind, I have manipulated my thoughts or allowed my thoughts to be manipulated, that I can do absolutely nothing better than what I'm doing now. And that is a lie from the pit of hell. So in the garden, right, in Genesis, in the garden, when Eve disobeyed the word of God and she allowed Satan to manipulate her into thinking that eating from this tree was the best thing in the world to do. And see, the enemy plays on words, and any good manipulator does. They like to wordplay. He said, you will not. He told her, he said, you won't surely die. Because she said, well, we can't eat of this. God said we die. He was like, you really won't die. And so physically, no, she didn't die. But they lost the connection that they had to live in paradise on earth. They lost that connection, got kicked out of the garden. And so because Satan was already cursed, right? Satan was already cursed when that pride rose in him, right? And he wanted to challenge God in heaven, which has led to him getting kicked out. And every angel that was attached to him, they got kicked out too. And so they're a part of that curse. And so when Eve allowed herself to be manipulated by the enemy because she didn't listen to God, she turned around and she listened to the enemy, because what he did was is he made it sound appealing. So because she did that act, it opened the door for humankind to fall under that curse. And so we're born into sin. So we're born onto cursed ground. So anytime that you listen to Satan, or you're following Satan, or listening to your flesh, because flesh and Satan go hand in hand. Anytime you do that, you automatically fall under the curse. And so that's why, because hell was never meant for humans, but that's why humans can enter hell once they die now, because that door was open. And it started with manipulation. And so when we allow ourselves to be manipulated, when we allow those toxic people in our life to make us feel like we can't do any better, we begin to believe those lies. We begin to start manipulating ourselves, and now we're stuck because we feel like we can't do any better. So we settle. And then when we get the courage to break out their relationship, instead of taking the time to heal, what do? We go to another relationship. And it's the same thing, because we were never healed. So that our mindset where it was is the same mindset where it's going to be if you don't allow healing. And you're going to go through this never ending cycle. And so how do we be free from this circle of manipulation? One name: Jesus. Because he brings healing, he brings freedom, and he brings a renewed mindset. And so when your mind begins to be renewed and you start allowing yourself to heal, your perception starts to change. And as you move forward and as you continue to grow in healing, as you continue to grow in freedom and follow God's voice, you are from under that curse. And instead of living a cursed life, you begin to live a blessed life. Are you willing to come up out of the self-sabotage? You owe yourself a service. Who are you listening to? Who are you getting your directions from? Am I allowing myself to be manipulated? Am I manipulating myself? Am I walking in fear? Am I not forgiving myself? Am I giving up because I continue to make mistake after mistake? We must allow ourselves to not get caught up in our mistakes and our failures and the bad choices, and allow ourselves the opportunity to heal and to grow from whatever has been holding us back, and learning to strive to hear from the voice of God and start listening to ourselves. Because I made a vow. I said, listen, I don't trust myself. I trust Christ. So taking our time, making decisions, and then learning to hear the voice of God. Just like if you're a parent and you're like, you tell your kids, because I tell my kids, I would never lead you down the wrong path. I would never steer you around in the wrong direction. But if your child disobeys you and doesn't listen, there's going to be consequences behind that. And just like God, when we don't listen to him, he stands on business. There's consequences behind that. And see, the enemy, he made a move that he can never come back from. And so when we are on his territory and we're on his turf and we're striving for the things of the world, we fall under this curse. And then our path began to be destructive. And yes, you can get material things, but your character does not always line up with the material things we have. And it's all about the inside that matters. And you can look good on the outside, but if it doesn't match on the inside, then it means nothing. So allowing Christ to come in, because that's why he came, to restore us from the mistake that was made in the garden, to restore us, giving us that grace, giving us that mercy, that we have an opportunity to get it right. Some people die in their mess and they never have an opportunity to come from that. And so taking advantage of the price that Christ paid to give us that opportunity to connect back, to reconnect and find our pathway back to the garden, so that we can hear the voice of God clearly, and this time obey him, because he created us and he would never lead us down a path of destruction. He would never steer us in the wrong way. He created us with a purpose and a plan. So we have to allow ourselves, our minds, to be free from the enemy's manipulation and stop walking in self sabotage and allow Jesus to heal us, so that we can have a renewed mind and we will stop being stuck. Try Jesus. That is the solution to the root of the problems. Jesus is the truth, the way, and the life, and there is no other way around it. And he is the one who will help break us from that manipulated mindset of self sabotage, because self is walking in flesh. And as I said before, if we lose ourselves, stop following our choices and making our own decisions and allowing God to lead us on and direct us, whichever way that looks like. Because his plan, we don't know the full blueprint. He gives us pieces, and it is a learning process, but it is a positive outcome. So I'm just the messenger, and I just want to encourage everybody to grow and to walk in freedom and not be stuck. Allowing Christ to really come in and heal us and give us a renewed mindset that we are no longer walking and allowing the enemy to manipulate us, no longer walking under his cursed path, but the path of life, freedom, and blessings. So until next time, you guys be blessed and stay encouraged. Peace.